honored to have with us today Secretary Turner and Secretary Kennedy to talk about the city that I love, Los Angeles, and what we can do to make it better. When I came into LA at 20 years of age, I came to the city to help my dad pastor a little old church down the street for 3 months until he could find a real pastor. I've been here now for 32 years in this city serving, and it started by occupying this building, which was given to us by the sisters in the Catholic Church who allowed us to be here for a price that's unbelievable because they wanted something good to be in this community. And for 32 years, it's been room by room, trying to bring this 400,000 square foot building up to renovation and to take in people all hours of the night. It's called the Church That Never Sleeps, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People are coming into recovery, coming out of homelessness, and walking into a brand new life. We at the Dream Center believe that people's lives are more than just giving them a place to stay. We don't minister just to people's need. We minister to people's potential. And I feel that sadly, over the last few years, there's just been a prevailing overall theme in LA that people can't change. Let's just get them out of sight. Let's put them in housing somewhere. But can they really change? Well, 70% of the people that live at the Dream Center are graduates of the recovery program. Of our staff, 70%. And it's been tough. It's been tough, through LASA and other programs to get funding to do what we're doing. We have worked as hard as we could. As staff, we've maxed out our credit cards to make payroll. We've done everything for 32 years. And no matter what, we're going to do this work because the difference is we don't minister out of a burden, we minister out of a call. And we've been here for 32 years, and the call keeps you going when sometimes you're against all odds. I get a little offended when people say that they're leaving LAs or charities are leaving LA, but we're not leaving, we're staying. Because we believe whoever stays here the longest in a community will win the battle of hearts and minds and change the atmosphere of a community. And that's why we're here today. Places like the Dream Center that have not asked for money, that have just done the work, but now have been presented with so much resources. And then when we come to the table, oftentimes being rejected, it's made it very, very difficult for us to function in this city of expenses that are rising. But I'm here today to celebrate the fact that we're still going to keep going on. And there's times we wanted to quit, but we haven't. And we just believe that today that maybe there's a new day where places like this who don't need everything, but we just need enough to be able to handle the need that's out there. It's getting bigger. Addiction is getting bigger. And charitable landmarks are leaving cities being taken over in our country. So I just want to say thank you for being here today. And it's an honor to have with us here today Secretary Turner, who has been a dear, dear friend, not of me, but of the people in our recovery program. Speaking to them, talking to them, sharing how their lives can be better. And the first time he came here and spent 30 minutes on the floor with the guys, all he wanted to do was talk about what their life could become. I am pleased and honored to introduce you today, Secretary Turner.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Pastor Matt and Vince, the Dream Center team, and to all of our student volunteers. So great to see you. Very proud of the work that the Dream Center does on a day-to-day operation. It encourages my heart to be here again as they serve the people of Los Angeles and fulfill the mission and the call that God has placed on them. California is a key driver of our nation's homelessness crisis. Look no further than the heartbreaking realities of the LA's drug-fueled homelessness crisis that plagues this once beautiful city. Just this year, HUD's Office of Inspector General, in coordination with the Department of Justice, arrested Alexander Sufer, the executive director of Abundant Blessings, for $23 million in fraud money with direct ties to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, or LASA, as many know it. Sufer siphoned money meant to house homeless Americans. Why did he do it? So that he could live in a $7 million mansion in Beverly Hills, drive a new $125,000 Range Rover, purchase a vacation property in Greece, and fly around on a private jet. The only thing abundant about this was sulfur and the amount of money that he stole from the American taxpayers. For years, a group called People Assisting the Homeless, or PATH, which received $2.5 million in HUD homeless funding since 2021, they claim to be converting the old Ramada on Washington Boulevard into a homeless shelter. And as of this week, that Ramada is still empty. Earlier this year, President Trump signed an executive order to establish the task force to eliminate fraud. And I'm proud of the work that HUD, HHS, and DOJ have done to bring accountability back to the government. These are two examples of waste, fraud, and corruption uncovered by our joint efforts. They highlight why we put LASA on notice. They will not receive another cent of American taxpayer money until they can account for every single dollar. Money, as we all know and all agree, does not grow on trees. Taxpayers understand this. American people understand this. We must and we shall be good stewards. Year after year, hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars were funneled to LASA with little accountability and zero results. The LA Continuum of Care, led by LASA, had received $1 billion in taxpayer dollars over the last 5 years. That's $1 billion over the last 5 years with no accountability and zero results. And despite receiving more federal homelessness funding than any other jurisdiction in our nation, LA remains the epicenter of the nation's drug-fueled homelessness crisis. During that same decade, that homelessness in LA doubled. HUD funding to LA nearly tripled. How many know that's a problem? Funding doubled. The amount of homelessness tripled. We got to run a new play. That play does not work. LASA could not verify the existence of 2,300 housing units that it was responsible for. In August of 2023, LASA could not even determine whether it used funding to pay for empty hotel rooms because it failed to record when individuals exited motel housing. Most egregiously, the agency's former CEO, who has resigned. She resigned after she and LASA violated the federal conflict of interest rules by committing more than $2 million in federal funds to her husband's employer. This is taxpayer money. We can't stand for that any longer. The numbers don't add up. The very organization tasked with ending homelessness and equipped with billions of dollars shamelessly wasted them on corruption and mismanagement when they should have fought to get the most vulnerable American people off the streets, healed and transformed. But as good stewards of taxpayer dollars, we'll cut LASA's funding off from receiving another dollar. We have zero tolerance for this abuse. Under the leadership of President Trump and Vice President Vance, we are rooting out corruption and ensuring that those who need care are truly going to get it. The days of funding corrupt failure are over. The Trump administration will not fund a homeless industrial complex any longer. At HUD, we're only interested in real results. And that's actually helping our fellow Americans get off the streets, out of addiction, and on a path to self-sufficiency. I'm grateful to be here with you all today. I want to introduce my dear friend, colleague, and brother, Secretary of HHS, Mr. Bobby Kennedy.
Hey everybody, thank you very much, Secretary Turner, and thank you, Pastor Matt Barnett, for hosting us here today and for taking the time to give us a tour of the facility. This is, I just want to start by saying this is an extraordinary facility, and what they do here should be a template for what we're doing all across the country. And I see these volunteers here from all over the country, 6,000 kids a year coming from churches to help build this place, to restore the rooms, to renovate the structure, to serve meals and to participate. It's an extraordinary accomplishment, and the costs, I was told, for each person here, there's 600 men and women who are homeless now, who are rebuilding their lives at this place. at a cost of about $7,500 per year per individual. Meanwhile, LA County, to do the same thing, to take a homeless person off the street and get him into housing, is paying about $185,000 a year. And during the Biden administration, the White House made the decision that my agency and Scott's agency could no longer give money to faith-based organizations, and told the states also to cut off funding to faith-based organizations. And Matt Burnett was telling me that during the COVID crisis, all the government officials in Los Angeles, including Adam Schiff from across the state, were telling people go to the Dream Center to get meals, and the meal burden here went from 1,000 meals a day to 10,000 because there was no place else for people to go. And a lot of people didn't have jobs at the price that we're paying. And I saw the success upstairs with their clients. They're doing it better than us, and we need to start recognizing it. And I live in this city for the past 11 years. I've watched the decline. I've watched the homeless population explode. I've gone many times down to Skid Row. I've been to this building to go to recovery meetings. And I've seen the ineptness, the incompetence of government that has contributed to this problem. Homelessness has now reached record levels in recent years, and half the homeless people in the country are in the state of California. More than 750,000 Americans were homeless, according to HUD's latest statistics, and behind that number are people struggling with mental illness. There are many, and addiction. There are many causes for homelessness. One of the most important causes is the price of housing and regulatory burden, but mental illness and addiction also contribute to it. And also, when people become homeless, those problems become much worse. We can't address this crisis without confronting addiction and mental illness, and that's what this facility does. And we can't continue funding programs without demanding evidence that they're helping people get off the street and rebuild their lives. At HHS, our goal is clear: to connect people to effective treatment, recovery, support, safe housing, and a path toward lasting independence. That requires HHS and HUD to align behavioral health and housing systems, and it requires the federal government to know where the taxpayer dollars are going and whether they are producing results. When fraudsters steal from federal programs, they steal resources from the taxpayer. They're also stealing from people who actually are entitled and badly need these services. Money intended for treatment, recovery, and housing cannot end up in the hands of fraudsters and organizations that fail the people they're paid to help. President Trump has directed this administration to stop that abuse. At HHS alone, we've uncovered nearly $100 billion in fraud. We have saved more than $46 billion and clawed back $30 billion. And we're not finished. In Minnesota recently, Scott gave an example of somebody who was stealing the federal money that was intended for these populations and living in Beverly Hills and buying fancy cars. In Minnesota, 2 months ago, a Medicaid program that was intended to help vulnerable people obtain housing, the price of that program grew from $2.6 million in expected annual cost to more than $100 million a year during the Biden administration. And it was because the money was not being monitored, and it was being stolen. And there was, in one instance, people buying fancy cars, people buying homes with money that was intended for homeless people and addicts. And that program, as a direct result, this was for people who suffered disabilities, people who are elderly, people who are suffering from addiction. A long waiting list to get into that program. And that program has now been closed because of the cost of the fraud. Well, that is a direct impact on people who need these services and are entitled to these services. That comes from the fraud. This is what oversight requires. Every dollar lost to fraud is a dollar that does not help someone who needs care, treatment, and stable housing. The principle is simple. If the state wants taxpayer monies, it must show that the payments are lawful and legitimate, or we're not going to pay them anymore. Most of these problems began under my predecessor, Xavier Becerra. When he came into my agency, there were only 80 people in program integrity, 80 people. This is for 50 states and 5 territories. These are the people who are monitoring $2.2 trillion in payments annually from my agency. We do 4 million transactions a day. There's only 80 people looking at those. Xavier Becerra came in and transferred 76 of them out. So that when I came in, there's only 6 people who are in charge of all program integrity for my department. And it was an invitation for the fraudsters to come in and steal everything. And that's why we have this hospice program. We've closed thousands of hospices here in Los Angeles because they didn't have patients. They were just billing us $6,000 a month for phony accounts. And the durable medical equipment fraud, tens of billions of dollars here in Los Angeles County. Autism services, tens of billions of dollars, all stolen because nobody was minding the store. Xavier Becerra came in and he instituted a program called Pay and Chase. What that means is when we get an invoice from a hospice that we know is fraudulent, we know that hospice is not treating patients. They've been busted before. We have algorithms that can identify that this is almost certainly a fraudulent case. His policy was you pay them and then you chase it. You go back and try to claw it back, which of course never happens. This was an insane policy. We shut that down. We now don't pay anything that we suspect to be fraudulent. And we have AI, we're using AI, machine counting systems, all kinds of algorithms to determine when payments come to us, to determine whether or not they're probably fraudulent. And we've stopped billions and billions of dollars worth of fraud by doing that. It's something that should have been done under Xavier Becerra, but he didn't. He let the people steal the money, and that is money that is being stolen from the people of California. At HHS, we're strengthening oversight. Before the money moves, we're bringing that same accountability to our work on homelessness, addiction, and serious mental illness. Through SAMHSA, HHS supports prevention, crisis response, mental health and substance use treatment, recovery service, and connection to community-based care and housing, the thing that the Dream Center does so well. And we're expanding access to treatment through our Streets program. We put in now an extra $100 million to bring outreach, treatment, recovery, support, and connection and housing to people who are experiencing homelessness. The objective is not to manage homelessness indefinitely. It's to help people move out of homelessness into productive lives and into connection to community. Compassion requires us to ask whether a program works, whether money reaches the people who need it, and whether those people are becoming healthier, safer, and more independent. We should measure success not by how much Washington spends, but by whether or not there are fewer people living on the streets, more people receiving effective treatment, more people in sustained recovery, and more Americans who are regaining stable and independent lives. And that's what accountability and effective care go together. Every dollar we stop a fraudster from stealing is a dollar preserved for its lawful purpose or returned to the American taxpayer. President Trump, Vice President Vance, and the White House Fraud Task Force and its entire administration will continue to follow the money, demand proof, and hold actors accountable. We will also continue to reward and recognize faith-based programs like this one that are doing such a good job at managing our money in ways that are effective. And we're going to continue to work with HUD to fund programs that get people off the street into treatment and recovery, and on that path towards self-sufficiency. Secretary Turner, thank you for your leadership, your partnership in this work, and your friendship. Now I think we're going to go to questions.
Just a quick note for the press, we have 10 minutes. Please keep your questions on topic. And I have Jacqueline, our press secretary, with a microphone. She will come to you. I'm going to start right here on the left.
Thank you. Haley Gomez with the Lincoln Media Foundation and Daily Signal. What specific reforms is HUD looking for in order, if you guys want to restore that money, or is it going to be reallocated to centers like the Dream Center?
Well, that's a great question. What we're looking for is really what the Dream Center and places like the Dream Center that are results oriented, that have a true continuum of care. The Dream Center does not receive funding, as Pastor Matt said. It's by friends, family, churches, private people. What we're looking for is what you see here, to bring someone in. It's in the name. Bring them in, house them, put the axe to the root. What is the problem? Why are they homeless? Drug addiction, mental illness. To treat that and then get them healed and transformed and out to a life of self-sufficiency. That's what we're looking for. It's a new paradigm. It's a different paradigm. It's not just housing. It's not housing first. It's the continuation of caring for men, women, children, and families when you take them off the streets, get them healed, get wraparound services around them, and get them transformed back to a life of self-sufficiency. That's what we're looking for. And we're looking for the best partners in order to do that. That's good stewardship over taxpayer dollars.
Hi, Lindsay Pena, KTLA. You mentioned LAHSA. Can you speak to whether funding will be immediately cut from LAHSA or what action will be taken against them?
Yes, ma'am. We're in the middle of that right now. And as I said before, you know, our aim is that LAHSA does not receive another dollar until there's accountability and transparency. And the right partners have to come along for us to work with. This is American taxpayer dollar. Everybody in here, in the media, the press, myself, and others, we all work hard for the money that God bless us with through our jobs. And my job is to steward well over that money. And LAHSA has not been faithful stewards over American taxpayer dollars, and there's corruption, and so we have to end that.
Hi, sir. Thank you. Jamie Page from California Post. You mentioned PATH and you mentioned the Ramada Inn. We haven't heard any specifics about an investigation. Can you go into any details about that?
No details at this moment, ma'am. What I said was this, is that to this day, as early as this week, that Ramada Inn is still empty. They received $2.5 million in 2021. That's 5 years ago, because they were going to convert this to help our homeless neighbors. And it's still empty. We can't allow that.
Pete Demetrio, KNX News Radio, Los Angeles. Either one of you gentlemen, what would you say the percentage of governmental programs that are aimed at assisting and getting people out of homelessness are actually efficiently doing the work? And do you realistically think there are enough faith-based programs similar to what the Dream Center is that can pick up the slack if government programs are failing in the job?
You know, I'm going to piggyback off what Bobby said. I mean, the Dream Center is a tremendous example of that. I've been to about 9 or 10 faith-based entities that help our homeless friends and neighbors around the country that are doing tremendous work, that have results, real results. And that's what HUD is about. We're about funding results, not just funding amount of people that are in beds, but we're about funding real results, people getting out of homelessness back to self-sufficiency. And to answer your question, sir, yes, I do believe that as we bring back, as Bobby alluded to, bring back the faith-based entities to the table. Because remember, before the government started helping homeless people, faith-based entities were doing a long time ago and have done a tremendous job. You're sitting and standing in one, and there's others around our country helping up in Baltimore and other Dream Centers and other Union Rescue missions around our country that are faith-based, that are actually helping American people that are facing homelessness. And Bobby, you want to add anything to that?
I would just say this. I don't think there's any limit to what these faith-based programs can do. You look at this facility, it's 450,000 square feet with hundreds of rooms in it that have all been renovated. And this was a tiny little corner church with no money. And when the Catholic Church was selling this facility, they had proposals from Hollywood, from the studios, powerful people, from real estate developers who all wanted to get into this facility. And the church was mission driven, and it said, we like what Pastor Barnett is talking about. Even though he doesn't have any money, he doesn't have any capacity to do this, he has a sense of mission and he has integrity and energy. And they came in here, and they don't turn anybody away. Everybody who wants to come here gets a spot. And they've helped thousands upon thousands of people. So at a tiny fraction of the cost that LA County is paying for its programs that we have no idea whether they even work. And so I think the more and more that government is smart about looking at these programs, looking at a track record like this, and then coming to facilities like this and saying, how can we help you replicate this? How can we help you expand this so that you're doing the same thing to help homeless people throughout the state? And that's how we're going to get through to a solution, not by throwing more money at the problem, but finding what's work and then supporting it.
Secretary Kennedy, homelessness continues to be the number one issue in the city of Los Angeles. We have a mayoral election. Just curious if you're still registered to vote in the city of Los Angeles, if you followed this debate between the incumbent mayor and a DSA candidate, Nithya Raman, and if you plan on voting, and just tell us your thoughts about this election.
I'm in a very strange position because when I ran for president, the Democratic Party sued me first to get me off the ballot in 12 states, including New York and California. And then when I endorsed President Trump, they sued me to keep me on the ballot in those same states. And in the course of one of those lawsuits, it was declared that I had no legal residence. And so I'm in a dilemma where I literally have no state where I can legally vote right now. I'm probably the only person in the country who's a legal citizen who has that dilemma, but I'm still trying to figure it out before the next election.
Doug Smith from the Los Angeles Times. In light of Judge McElroy's decision to set aside the 2026 notice of funding opportunity, will you give the Los Angeles Continuum of Care 45 days to find a new collaborative applicant?
Sir, thank you for your question. We're working on this right now. One thing I will say is that we are committed to the reforms, including in our 2026 COC NOFO, because the Housing First model is a failed model. We're committed to the reforms that we're putting forth. It's a shame that, ideology, politics have played into us serving America's most vulnerable people. We want good partners to come to the table to answer your question. We're willing to work with people who want to come to us and come with us and partner with us to actually get the work done. I've been here multiple times. I've been on Skid Row multiple times. I've been to the Dream Center. American taxpayer dollars, billions of dollars here in California, Los Angeles, being used to build a homeless industrial complex. And then we have judges that want to put us in litigation, activism, and all of these things. And so when I look at this, I brought some I want to show everybody. And I learned about, this is a bag that I learned that they're giving our homeless neighbors with American taxpayer dollars. And in this bag, when you go in here, now we're talking about helping the most vulnerable people in our country, a continuum of care. This is not a continuum of care that I'm looking for. This is drug paraphernalia that's in this bag. This brown bag that's handed to people, homeless people, that are addicted to drugs, that have mental illness, hard-working people's money. People are putting these together with their hands. to give to people that are already addicted. Has nothing to do with politics. Has everything to do with caring for people properly. This is not the continuum of care that I'm looking for. It's not the continuum of care that Bobby is looking for. This is keeping people addicted and giving them a way to stay addicted. Would y'all all agree? That has to be over. That's done. This is the toolkit that they're giving out right now. But the toolkit that we're going to be talking about is a toolkit to restoration and revitalization. And I'm excited about the work that we're going to do. But any viable partner that wants to come and join us in this work to do it the right way, we welcome them.
Final question?
Secretary Turner, Jonathan Cho with Discovery Institute and Frontlines Turning Point USA. The fraud, waste, and abuse is obviously pervasive in California's homeless industrial complex. But what other cities are you now investigating? And if you're not, when will you start looking at cities like Seattle and states like Washington where the homeless drug crisis is out of control?
Yes, sir, and thank you for your question. You know, Bobby did allude, the White House task force that we both sit on and work very closely with, the White House, HHS, DOJ. There's multiple cities around our country. Many of them have been made public. Boston, Bobby mentioned Minnesota, Washington State, here in California, and there's others. One thing about it, if people are being fraudsters, if people are being criminals and using American taxpayer dollars for criminal activity, this is the day and age under President Trump and Bobby, myself, our cabinet secretary, our members in the cabinet, that we're no longer going to stand for people to defraud the American people. This transcends politics. This is right and wrong. And it's not just fraud, waste, and abuse. It's corruption at its core. And I believe God called us to these spots to, yes, serve and to lead and to serve the American people. But I believe He also called us to these spots to make decisions that are very hard, to go after corruption and to shine a light on crime, to shine a light on waste and abuse and fraud. My mother's been working for 50-something years, very hard. She's not a rich lady. She's been poor. She's been through, our family has been through it. And I think about my own mother, who works every single day to take care of herself and to be a blessing to other people. And so when I see people stealing American taxpayer dollars, I think about my mother. I think about my friends and colleagues. I think about Pastor Matt and others that are actually trying to do the right thing. And so this is a day and age where it's a different playbook. And because that playbook that they've been running, that's a bad playbook. There's new plays coming. And these plays will be successful by the grace of God for the American people. Thank y'all. God bless you.